Hey everybody, welcome to Half Past Out News. This is our weekly news segment, and we are recording the week of Watches and Wonders 2024, which means we have so much news to go over. This is going to be a pretty high level overview. We're going to do some more videos about it. We're going to talk about it on the podcast and do a more in depth recap. But for now, let's get into it. Cheers. Let's start out with the big guns that we teased last week, Rolex and Tudor. Rolex released some new variations of the day date, which was a surprise because I'll be honest, I thought we were going to get just more date just variants, which I mean is fine, I guess. They're releasing new dials. I believe it's a rose gold bracelet, maybe a slightly larger size. I think 38 millimeters. Um, it's fine. It's Let's be honest, it's exactly what we expected from Rolex this year. Rolex last year did a very vibrant release. They released some of their most controversial dials. They dropped the Milgauss. They really came out swinging last year. This year is much more subdued, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Like I said, it's what we expected from Rolex. It's minor changes. It's slight variations. They dropped the fluted bezel and the fluted dial and palm dial from the Datejust, which I fully agree with. Those were some of my least favorite dials. I think they were honestly just really tacky. But we did get another tacky Rolex back because with the newly renamed, I'm going to butcher this, so I want to check my notes. Yes, Sea Dweller, as opposed to, I believe, the Deep Sea that it was. A solid yellow gold with a bright blue dial, like they pulled it straight off the wrist from an 80s movie Kingpin. Uh, I mean, it's if that's what you're into, great. It is big and brash, and it is Rolex on some of its most extreme ends. Speaking of extreme ends, we did also get a new Daytona Cosmograph in mother of pearl. I believe it's a dark mother of pearl with white mother of pearl subdials and a diamond encrusted bezel. Rolex, why? Why did you do this? You could have done so many other cool things. I get it. I'm sure there's a very specific market for it. Like we talked about on the podcast, Rolex Daytonas specifically are becoming very high level grail pieces for a lot of people. And so I get the idea to like separate it out, but I don't know. I really liked what they did with the Tiger in the past. This feels like a less finished version, less polished version of that. Of course, I haven't seen one in person, so we'll go take a look at them and see kind of what we think from the boutiques and hopefully get an in person review for those. Tudor did something a little bit similar. I was really, really praying for a like red dial Black Bay. And I think that would have been so cool to have a Black Bay 58 with a bright red dial and a red bezel. We unfortunately didn't get that. We did get a new GMT chronograph, which is, really nice. It's got a two-tone red and black bezel. I mean, it's really what you would expect out of Tudor's craftsmanship. I think they're really stepping up. They're really trying to punch up against Rolex, and this year really shows that, especially with one of my favorite releases from Tudor this year, the monochrome Black Bay. This is a spitting image of your standard black Submariner at, what is it? I think it comes to half the cost or something like that. It is truly Tudor saying that yeah, no, it's truly Tudor coming in and saying, hey, Rolex, you're not the only people who can make a really stunning diver, who can make a really high quality diver. I think it's great. I'd love to see more people try and take on Rolex, not in just style alone, but in craftsmanship and in quality, and still have a fun release with other different watches out there. They also released their solid gold version. This, I think, is a little bit better than the Rolex. I really like the green dial that they released with their solid gold. The yellow is a little bit darker, so it's not as shiny and vibrant, at least from the pictures that we saw. Hopefully we've got some pictures up here of the Rolex Deep or Sea Dweller. Sea Dweller. Well, of course, lots of other brands got into it. Ulysse Nardine released their newest version of the Freak. Piaget released the thinnest tourbillon of all time, I believe, at 2 millimeters. Bulgari, of course, keeps their thinnest with the Octa Finissimo. I apologize, I don't have the notes for the specific name of their Finissimo, Octa Finissimo here, but rest assured, it's very, very thin. Nomos released a limited edition line of their really bright colored tangentes. Those are really cool. Hopefully we got some pictures of them here. I love what they've done. Nomos is the king of like that Bauhaus minimalist, and they keep that heart and spirit of what these watches are while still being fun and exotic and exciting. I think they've done a great job. Uh, Frederic Constant released their green moon phase. I believe they've got some other colors, but the green is, of course, the best. I love green watches. If you guys haven't figured that out yet, odd colors are great. I really like, purples, reds, but I have a soft spot for green watches. I'm sure AP released a new Royal Oak Patek. You guys have probably all seen and heard the news. If you're watching this, it means you were like deep cut into watches. So you guys, I'm sure, have seen the new Patek with the denim band. I'll touch on some of the big hitters like we did with Rolex and Tudor, but you guys see a lot of those. So we'll talk about some other ones. Before we do, though, I do need to talk about one of my favorite brands, Grand Seiko. Grand Seiko really came out swinging this year. They have a brand new hand-wound high beat movement. They've got a truly stunning textured mint green dial. I believe it's on their Series 9 Legacy 9. I apologize, I don't know the nomenclature off the top of my head. If you guys have not seen this new green dial, though, please check it out. We actually got to see it in person a few weeks back, the same color, but not the texture. And it is, the pictures don't do it justice. It is a remarkable green, especially for people who don't like green. It's very tame and light. Again, it's mint green as opposed to the vibrant. Check it out. But we need to talk about what they really released this year was I'm going to look at my notes here, Kudo Constant Force Tourbillon. This is a piece of true craftsmanship in watchmaking. A platinum case, skeletonized tourbillon where every piece looks like it's floating. Grand Seiko really mastered a minimalist skeletonized dial. To be honest, that's the reason I dislike a lot of skeletonized dials. They're busy. I mean, movements are cool to see, but if it's illegible, if there's too much going on, Grand Seiko doesn't bother with any of that. You can read the time. It is a wearable watch, but it is elegant and stunning and, I mean, truly jaw-dropping to look at. Of course, we should make a few other honorable mentions. I mean, we would be remiss if we didn't mention IWC. Whether or not you like what they mainly put out, the Eternal Calendar is something you should look at. It is ridiculous, it is unnecessary, and I love it. Not only is it a cool looking watch, I really like what they've done with the dial and the way that the crystal sits and gives it this nice, I don't know, like soft, elegant look. But it is a Gregorian calendar, supposedly accurate out to 400 years, accounting for leap years. I think it skips 3 leap years every 400 years or something stupid like that. And its moon phase is supposed to be accurate to 45 million years, outside of, big catastrophic events that would change the way the moon turns. Again, it's cool. It's unnecessary. And this is what Watches and Wonders should really be about. Yes, you get to see a lot of releases. Yes, it's exciting to see what the big brands are going to put out for the next year and where their direction is headed, but also to see just a piece of watchmaking craftsmanship that serves no real purpose outside of the fact that they could do it. I absolutely love it. Hermes, of course, released their new, let me pull up the name because I'm not going to think about it, the Cut. Yes. Hermes released their Cut, which is, a chic little fashion watch. I think they're really starting to step on the toes of Louis Vuitton and Cartier. Cartier has a much longer watchmaking history, but I love what Hermes is starting to put out. They're putting out cool watches. I like that it's an in-house movement. Normally, I don't care about that, but if you're going to be a fashion house putting out watches, it really shows that you're going above and beyond to make something worth making at the end of the day. And then JLC released another unnecessary version of a moon phase where it is their, I believe, duometer, where it tracks both day and night on 2 separate subdials. I love it. Again, a moon phase is not always necessary to begin with, but it's cool. The way they structured this, it's got a floating tourbillon on where 9 o'clock sits, really beautiful dial. Of course, they did a great job with this. But why track the daytime? I don't know. Thank you, JLC, for giving this to us. Again, I love it. I'm going to love looking at it. Hopefully, we've got some good pictures of it here. Before we end, I do want to start ending these with some micro brand news. I think it's important to get the smaller brands some publicity, get them out into the public and talk about them more because what they are doing is really cool. This is a Watches and Wonders episode though. Not It's really not the place for micro brands, unfortunately. So I want to at least talk about a small boutique brand that I've never heard of called Ruta Silvia. Ruta Silvia is something that I truly had to look up and do some research on because I wanted something new. And their claim to fame is that instead of using a traditional tourbillon, they use a harmonic oscillator. Now, before we get into that, the craftsmanship is beautiful. Again, take a look at the photos that we've got. Stunning watches. The time and dedication to make something from such a small boutique brand, I really respect it. And they're doing something different and unique. It's not a traditional tourbillon. The harmonic oscillator, their claim is that it is far more accurate than the traditional tourbillon. That's because tourbillon takes time to adjust, accounting for gravity based on the position that it's in, whereas the harmonic oscillator does it instantaneously and automatically. That's a lot of semi-mathematical words that really don't mean a lot to the average watchmaker, but it's cool because it's new and different technology. It's something that a lot of watchmakers have either put aside for complexity, they don't want to put the time in, or it's just not something that interests them, which is fine. But Ruta Silvia is doing it and doing it super well. Take a look at what they've got because it is worth checking out. Again, most of the watches that we're talking about here cost more than the average home price in most of America. That's what Watches and Wonders is. We're going to get into some more realistic watches, everyday watches, talk about a lot of other micro brands as we get into this. But thank you all so much. Let me know what you think of Ruta Silvia, if you guys are going to pick up any watches from Watches or the Watches and Wonders release, or if you don't like any of them. Let me know too. Well, tell your friends about us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.